engaging prospective students on the web. If you would like to live tweet, the Twitter tag for today's webinar is #HigherEdWeb or #HigherEdWeb. Just one quick side note, if you have any questions, please type them into the chat window. And if you would like a recording, the slides will be available after the webinar. Today's speakers are from Boston Interactive and Campus Bird. We have speaking from Boston Interactive, Rebecca Marani, and from Campus Bird, Brett Tuca. With that, take it away, Rebecca.
Thanks, Alexis. I'm Rebecca Marani. I'm Vice President of Interactive Services for an agency, Boston Interactive. What Boston Interactive does is we focus on marketing strategy, and not only do we do the strategy, but we also implement those strategies through user experience, visual design, and development. Whenever we approach a marketing strategy, we always keep this simple equation in mind. A marketing strategy for us is always understanding your objectives as an organization. So what are the goals that you have as an organization that is going to drive your business forward? And then who are your audiences? And what do you need those audiences to do in order to help you meet your objectives? And once you really spend time to understand that, you've sort of identified the who, the why, and the what. You're more clearly able to then determine the how. So this simple equation is really sort of the foundation to all of our work as digital strategists. I'm personally a big proponent of user-centered design, which really means in its simplest form that you approach design or a strategy from the mindset of your most important users. Don't try to make users think the way you do. Don't make them try to understand your organizational structure. It's our job as really strong marketers to get in the mindset of our users and understand how they need to consume information, and then structure our campaigns and our strategies to be able to meet their needs. One thing we always hear from our prospective students is that when they're considering a college or a university, they really want to know who they're going to learn from. They want to understand who the faculty is. They really want to understand what the faculty is doing both inside and outside of the classroom. And they really want to get a sense, who are my educators? What am I going to learn? Am I going to be inspired? But what we often return to them as far as our faculty information is typically, a headshot with some contact information and maybe one or two of the classes that they're teaching, or maybe some publications they may have done. But when you really look at this, this isn't really giving you the essence of who this professor is or the inspiration that she brings to education. So when I think of user-centered design, I really think about how do we listen to our users and deliver to them what they're asking for. In this scenario, I would really challenge everybody to think about putting their faculty bios and their CV information out on LinkedIn and using that social channel as a way to sort of put your professional bios out there. And then use your website to create faculty subsites that can really showcase the heroes in your institution by providing to the users a sense of really what these folks are bringing what value they're bringing as an educator. So really, use those subsites to showcase the research that they've contributed to, or maybe perhaps bring in their professional blog that talks about the thought leadership that they're thinking about. By listening to our users and delivering to them what they're asking for, we're more apt to engage them. The other thing I always keep in mind when I'm approaching a strategy is to make sure that we've got the right technology platform in place. It's really hard to distribute content and to make content available quickly if we don't have the right tools and technologies, and that's really where enterprise-wide CMSs come in that really give us the ability to manage content across a system and really get content out there quickly. So we really want to make sure that we have that good, strong technology platform in place when we're thinking of our digital strategies. So really now, as we've identified our goals, we know who our audiences is. We've taken the oath to think like our users and not like our internal organization. We've got our strong technology in place. Let's really talk about some compelling ways to engage our prospective students. The first thing I always say is we don't need to create content. What we need to do is create value. So it goes back to that message of listening to who our users are. And then through interactivity and dynamic content, that's how we push that value to them. and make sure that we're delivering that value in a way that our audiences will listen and be part of our conversations. The first step is in calls to action. So we talk a lot in the work that I do about calls to action. They're really the next step that you're looking for your audiences to take with you. They're sort of the end to the story. You take somebody through a process, or you provide them with information, and then you cleanly and clearly ask them to do something actionable with you. And if we've done the right job of putting the right information in front of them, delivering that story to them, that next step usually compels them into action. And so many times we forget to add those simple calls to action. And with prospective students, we're typically looking to ask them to request more information from us, to visit campus, or to apply. And we know as savvy marketers in higher education that it's not just about getting applicants, it's about getting qualified applicants. So I really push you to think of how can you get people online to self-qualify? What is the information that we can provide that can help a student understand your offering so that they can self-qualify whether or not they should apply? We want to make sure that we're thinking of these strategies and providing people the information they need to make educated decisions, and then finish that story with a clear, actionable next step. I literally say if I could hug a website, I would hug Drew University's website. They do a wonderful job of telling the story and a wonderful job of really walking prospective students through the story. And then at every turn, right here, they push you into your next step. So when you click this button, you actually see what you see at the bottom of my screen here is 3 very clear calls to action: visit campus, apply now, and contact us. The story before that gives us enough information to make us want to take one of those calls to action. They're not just putting these on the right-hand side of the page and hoping we click the button. They're actually walking us through a process and then asking us to sort of take that next step with them. The calls to action are very clear. We understand very quickly. And as we move through the system, as we move through their website and we move through different sections in the website, we start identifying with these calls to action, knowing that they're available to us at the end of sort of each story. And then they start using visual cues very smartly, actually pulling the arrow down to the Apply Now button. So just a really successful way to sort of use a compelling call to action. What I would also say is, when you're thinking of calls to action, it's not just about placing the buttons on the page at the end. It's also about using dynamic media and interactivity to figure out where are those calls to action. How am I going to compel someone to do something different? Imagine a student talking on a video about their housing situation. Maybe they're talking about their dorm or why they love to live in the dorm that they do. At the end of that, why not offer a call to action? Come see our dorms in person. Come visit the campus. So it's all about trying to figure out what are the smart ways and the compelling ways to use calls to action to get people to take the next step with us. Integrated social media is another really strong way to get people to sort of be part of our conversations. Gone are the days of us forcing our users to come to our homepage or even our website for information. The digital world today, as you know, is vast, and users are everywhere, from Facebook to Pinterest to LinkedIn and on and on and on. So we really need to make sure that we are where our audiences are and that we are carving out those spaces, but we're being part of them and we're being part of those conversations. This is a great example from Oregon State University. Right on their website, you can access all of the information that's going on in all of their different channels aggregated into their website. Anytime anything is done in any of their channels, it automatically feeds into their website. And what they're really doing here is they're connecting the worlds. So it's no longer about 4 different places or 5 or 6 different places that I need to go to get information. It's about one area that they've carved out in the digital space, and they've integrated that together and made it really successful. So you can be on Instagram, or you can be on Twitter, you can be on Facebook or on their website, but regardless, you can get to all of those channels very seamlessly. In addition, by integrating your social media into your website, you're really showing that you're a dynamic place. You've got a lot going on. A lot of times when I'm working with my clients, what I hear is, nobody knows what's going on here at campus. They have to go to 5 different places, or all the activities happening on Facebook and not everybody's there. Using integrated social media really helps respond to that and really allows us to to really present ourselves in that one digital space sort of way. In addition to that, when we look at sort of trying to understand where our audiences are and how they're interacting with content, I found this slide that I thought was really impactful. Basically what this is telling us in our undergraduate prospective student audience of 18 to 24, there's only 3% of those people that are not interacting with content in some way. Some of them are creating content, some of them are talking about it, collecting it, others are joining conversations, some are just watching. But at the end of the day, they're all participating. And it's our job to really make sure that we are part of those conversations and that we're putting out interesting, valuable content so that we can be part of their conversations and don't have to work so hard to talk about ourselves. So again, bringing you back to Oregon State University, the other thing they do really well is making sure that all of their content is shareable across their social channels. So up here in the corner, you know, they have their share, their like, their tweet. This is a great way, and we really believe and really push for our clients to really think about, you know, what is the right content to share. Make sure that people, if they want to share it, they are able to, and make sure that we are getting other people to work harder for us. And then mobile, and this goes a lot to talk about. You really do need to be where your audiences are. Everyone knows that you need a mobile presence, and everyone knows that mobile's only been growing. Audiences young and old are using their mobile devices as their primary connection to the web. But what, at the end of the day, really makes a good mobile experience? Emmanuel College, hats off to you. They just went through a redesign, and it looks really great. What I would have loved to see on their mobile site is that they had the responsive design where the site actually mirrors exactly, the mobile site mirrors exactly their desktop presence. And the reason is that our research, what we found is if you have what we call an MDOT site, which is a site where we've taken content and made decisions on what we think is important for our audiences, the #1 button pushed on a mobile MDOT site is go to the standard website view. And what that tells us is that us deciding what's important to our audiences for content and then restricting them from other content in the mobile space is not an effective strategy, because people rather go to the standard website view, they rather pinch and zoom and try to get the information than they would sort of have the content determined for them. So we really employ the technique of responsive design, and I know if you've been to any of the recent higher ed conferences, you're hearing a lot about this out there. Stonehill College has done a wonderful job of making their desktop experience just as wonderful on their mobile or on their tablets. They're using the technique of responsive design, which says it doesn't matter which device you're using. We're going to give you the content that that you want in the best mobile or best browsing experience possible. So we really want to make sure that, you know, wherever we are, we're finding great ways to display content and provide content to our audiences regardless of what device they're coming from. So in short, really what I want everyone to take away is know your audiences and really understand, you know, who are they, what is the information that's going to compel them to take that next step with you. Once you've identified those audiences, listen to them. You know, if they're asking for information about your faculty, if they want to know about your programs, if they want to know what it's really like to go to campus, put that information out there and make sure that you're doing it in a way that's meaningful to them. A bio information and resume information on your faculty isn't necessarily going to compel a prospective audience to be inspired to take that next step. It's not to say that the faculty information isn't important and their CVs aren't important, but put them out on LinkedIn and use that database to really allow faculty members to find each other. And use that valuable real estate on your website to really focus on your perspectives. Be where your audiences are, whether that's social or mobile. Make sure that you're part of those conversations and make sure that other people are talking about you in those areas. Create value and not content. There's so much information coming at our perspectives right now. They're not sitting down and reading. They're an Instagram world and they're used to short snippets of interesting and valuable content. So make sure that's how we're communicating with them. If there's something of interest, just give them a little bit, enough to pique their interest, and then bring them further and then get more information to them. But the first thing you want to do is make sure that it's valuable and that we're telling them in a very succinct way that it is valuable content and they should spend the time with you. I always say this: build a digital ecosystem. You're not building a website. You shouldn't think of it as I have a Facebook page or channel. It should all be integrated, and the system should work to generate content for different purposes. For example, if you have a faculty portal or a student portal, ask them on those portals to submit their stories about why they like being at your institution, why they like their experience, so that they can generate content that can go on your EDU website for your profiles that can speak to prospective audiences. Or, if you've got content out on Facebook, class pages, for example, for alumni, bring those into your website and make that a really integrated experience. Make sure that you're not asking people to go to certain places for certain types of information. Bring it all together. That's not to say the messages may not want to be all the same across every channel, but make sure that you're at least integrating that so people can find you and so that your digital presence is strong. And then finally, what I always say is be differently you. And what I mean by that is everybody in higher education says many of the similar things. The student-to-teacher relationships are really strong, or that campus is very dynamic. That all may be true, but we really need to find what those core differentiators are for you that make you unique and different. And how we know that they're your unique differentiators is that we're actually able to show it, not just say it. So look for the things that you're actually able to show. If you're really deep and strong in research, bring those research projects right to the forefront. Don't just say we're working in this area. Show the work that you're doing, because the actual showing of the content is much stronger than just telling. And typically we find that if you can show it, those are your actual true differentiators. So with that, what I'd like to do is hand it over to Brett from Campus Bird. I've been talking to you about how to engage audiences through different tools and techniques and strategies. And he's been engaging audiences effectively through the use of interactive campus maps. So I'm going to hear his insights with us.
Great. Thanks, Rebecca. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Brett Truca, and I'm Director of Sales at Campus Bird. Boston Interactive has presented several excellent ways to engage prospective students over the web. Now we're going to talk about how we can engage and draw in prospective students through creating a strong interactive campus map experience. But first, I'd like to quickly give a background on Campus Bird, which is a product by Concept 3D. We're based in Boulder, Colorado, and as you can see here, we're home of the Buffs at University of Colorado, Boulder. Concept 3D was founded in 2006 by former executives of Atlas Software, the makers of SketchUp, which ended up being acquired by Google. Concept 3D is recognized as a leading visualization 3D software company in the world. And in fact, Concept 3D was one of 12 companies worldwide selected to be featured last year at Google I/O. In 2012, we launched a map management software called Campus Bird, aimed to represent an institution's brand experience, which is now the flagship product that principally serves the higher ed market today. Campus Bird's platform is built around integrating location-based content with Google Maps and solving for wayfinding while creating a rich brand experience through virtual tours and 3D renderings of campus. Campus Bird really marries the software component with custom media. As you can see here, Campus Bird content includes 3D modeling, full campus renderings, as well as street view photography. We've been fortunate to receive strong industry recognition, partnering with companies such as Disney, Google, as well as a host of prestigious universities like Duke and Harvard Business School, for example. Now, to better understand the experience for which maps provide our generation today, let's quickly walk through how maps have evolved based on our growing consumer needs. Essentially, we've gone from static data to rich media and information. In this timeline, for example, we start with custom mapping, where literally a GIS expert would be required in order to build a web map. I'm sure several of you joining us today remember static maps and how frustrating it really was to simply just click on a picture, for example. Fortunately, we're past that stage now, so everyone can rest easy. Then Google came out and changed the mapping world with OpenStreetMaps. Moving down this timeline, we're introduced to mobile and 3D imaging, and moving into Waze technology, which was purchased by Google, for real-time traffic information and crowdsourcing for map data. So let's go slightly further back in time for just a quick minute to the origin of maps. But by no means are maps a new thing, and tying content and imagery to a location is not a new thing either. In fact, as recent as 1904, people were tying photos to locations on a map. In this example right here, Andrew McNally II personally took photos on his honeymoon for this edition, the Chicago to Milwaukee map edition, to illustrate turn-by-turn directions, which is something we demand of maps today. People used to depend on maps solely for basic visual representations of an area and to map out the best possible route to their desired destination. Even on college campus, this is an example dating back to 1902 of Duke University's original campus map. Today, many college maps still remain in the static 2D or two-dimensional form, despite the technologies that have paved the way for a more robust 3D and interactive experience. In fact, this was Duke University's map right before CampusBird partnered with Duke together about 3 years ago. And here's what Duke's map has become today. The reality is, and the point is, that maps have really evolved, and so have the expectations around the experience from maps for prospective students. They've gone way beyond wayfinding information and learning how to get just from point A to point B. Maps have really become a way of experiencing a school, transporting people from their geo-targeted location to a new destination. Maps now have the ability to house several data streams, like dining, public transportation, and ADA accessibility information, just to name a few, further shaping the end user's experience. Today's campus maps are being used as a hub for information. They aggregate content from various sources, bringing it within reach of prospective students, visitors, parents, alumni, etc. They're a resource that have become more than a window into the campus landscape. It's really a window into the overall community. This is an example. In fact, when the term campus map was just Googled, and the most frequent words that came up as a result were represented using tag crowd, there are far more words in here than just navigational terms, as you can see. The results include things like events, tours, and beauty. In this similar example where a word cloud was used on Duke's specific maps page, we can see a similar result. And the takeaway really is that what defines a campus map is very broad, as you can see, and it goes far beyond the landscape. It connects a wide range of people to their respective interests, whether that information is around campus safety, traffic, transportation, classroom location, or events. Maps are the hub, the information center for all things on campus, helping to define the experience. So with maps playing such an integral role in the campus experience and social community these days, they're really an extension of an institution's brand. And in order to develop the most impactful map, you need a map content management system that can integrate all of these data streams to facilitate and deliver a unique and customizable experience. Essentially, there are three key strategic themes to think about when building a robust platform for your map content system. They're data integration, extensibility, and an intuitive user interface. As mentioned, the first theme is data integration. In order to provide a truly content-rich experience where individuals can access information around campus, around the community, data streams must easily integrate into your platform. Take, for example, a prospective student. They're visiting your website and they just landed on your map. She may now want to search for things like upcoming events on campus, or, for example, where she and her parents should eat during her campus visit, all of which are important data streams that your platform really needs to be able to facilitate. CampusBird connects all this information through the cloud, and yourschool.edu has the ability to control, manage, and present this content to all these different interest groups. Not only do prospective students have an interest in your institution's map, but so do alumni, faculty, and really the overall community, creating that broad range of data streams that address their respective interests. The second theme is that your map platform should be extensible to other media, right? So including mobile and print formats. What we know about millennials is that they are 100% always connected, and their expectation is that they can easily access your campus information via whatever device they might be interacting with at the time. It's important to have user-friendly capabilities in the various forms that your audience demands, whether it be print or mobile format that is demanded. It's really all about connecting that content and creating a single source of the truth regarding consistent map information. And finally, the third theme to really think about is an intuitive user interface, which is essential when engaging with prospective students through your campus map. If the information is difficult to navigate, the experience is really interrupted, and we've lost the potential to keep the prospect engaged and learning about what your institution has to offer. So in addition to, facilitating a customizable experience, an institution through a map and easily navigating any and all this information that one might desire, it's really important to be able to easily share those experiences with others in your social network. Knowing that 63% of millennials stay updated on brands through their social networks, it's important to consider how you are representing your institution's brand via social media. In this particular example, you can see at the University of Denver, they've turned on the CampusBird Facebook integration to generate awareness around specific destinations on campus. Another example of social media integration via gamification is the Foursquare application here on Duke's map. So this incites students to interact with the campus map content, ultimately driving traffic to these destinations on campus in a fun and engaging way. One final example here of creatively using social media and campus maps to engage prospective and current students is Duke University's #PictureDuke Instagram events. Incorporating several themes such as fall campus walking tour, Duke encourages students to take various pretty photos around campus, posting them to Instagram with the #PictureDuke. Duke serves as the moderator of this content and chooses the best pictures, awarding winners with various prizes, as well as adding some of these photos to their website and campus maps. So really engaging prospective and current students to help generate content on their very own campus map. So why is all of this important that we've been speaking about? Google's 2013 Q3 education search report indicates that regarding students' search for what institution they're going to attend, geospecific search is up 10%. Many times prospective students and their parents are having conversations about what college to attend late at night during dinner, and even over the weekend. If a prospective school isn't that close to home, more often than not, the reality is students are going to narrow their more distant options down to a short list. As traveling to a school, obviously, as you all know, for a campus visit can be very costly. On top of this, Google's report shows that while historically education searches dropped significantly during summer months and around the holidays, these usual peaks and valleys have been smoothing out, ultimately lengthening the students' research cycle. One conclusion we can draw from this is that prospective students and their parents are really becoming more savvy and resourceful about how they're obtaining their information about institutions over the web. For example, at Duke University, who we've been mentioning as a Campus Bird partner, we found that out of everyone that visits the Duke website, 10% end up on the campus map. And that's 10% of all visitors, not just students. And for this reason, among others, it's all the more important to connect with these students during their extended college research period, giving them a sense of what your campus has to offer and experience on campus. So the modern map is really one where the landscape and possibilities are open. Maps should really be an extension of your brand, a critical communication vehicle that is core to your web presence, and they're made to be shared. Your campus map is a key component in a prospective student's decision making regarding what school to attend, and it should be represented well on your map. So I'd like to thank everyone again for taking time to listen. If you have any more questions at all, please feel free to call or email me. My information is listed below. And with that, I'd like to hand it back to Alexis.
Thank you, Brett. I greatly appreciate that. Rebecca, thank you as well. I definitely learned a lot. So we have some really great questions from our audience, and we actually got a question from Twitter, which was fabulous. So Rebecca, I'm going to gear this one to you. As higher ed institutions, how do we tell our story, or do we encourage others to tell their stories through social media?
I think that's a really good question, and I think it's probably the way to look at that is it's both. I think that we want to get people to talk about us and want to be part of the, we want them to come up with the story and their experiences, but at the same point, I think it's our job as good marketers to put valuable content out there that starts those conversations as well. So, you know, I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's about thinking about how do we help people, and how do we help people with valuable content that they can start conversations with.
Perfect. Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate it. So, Brett, I have a question for you. So, you know, the campus maps looks fabulous, but really to get that started, how long does it take to get the maps launched, and what's the workload from your perspective?
Yeah, great. That's a great question. We get that question a lot. You know, the timeline for getting a map up can vary, but typically we find we're able to turn them around within as short as a couple weeks and sometimes 4 to 6 weeks. And we try to make the onboarding process as easy as possible for the institution. And we break the process down into just 4 basic components: data, design, develop, and deploy. We really only need the institution's help on gathering data and content already exists, so that we can upload that into the map CMS. So we do the heavy lifting for that. A consultative call where we'll decide about how you want the map to look and feel. We typically have other client examples ready so that we can walk you through some best practices and make the process easy. And then finally, our team will focus on the last 2 components, developing and deploying the map, which we do all the work for.
Perfect. That's great. So, Rebecca, I have another question for you, and this came from the audience. I run social media for a small college in northern Kentucky. And what I started doing is when I find a prospective student that's been accepted, I have the president of the college tweet a message to them saying congrats, and we personalize it as best as we can. Is this a good idea or no?
You know, I think that's a part where I would say we have to listen to our audiences and see how they're responding to that. I personally think anytime we can change a conversation, make a prospective student feel invested in and known, I personally feel like that is a good strategy. But I would just say, you know, as you try any new strategy, the real key there is to listen to your audience and see how they're responding to your communications, and then adjust accordingly.
Wonderful, thank you. So Rebecca, I have one more question for you. And for those attending today's webinar, if you don't mind typing your questions into the chat window or the questions window, please do so. I greatly appreciate it. So Rebecca, question for you. Higher education has so many audiences. How do you design a single site that can engage them all?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and one that we're often asked a lot. And I think the thing is the way we approach things is we don't think about one site doing everything for everyone. We really get into trouble. And I think we have to look at it from more of a systematic approach and say, in our ecosystem, we have many different modes of communication, many different portals, many different ways to get content and information to our groups. And what we really need to do is understand at the deepest level who our audience is, what are we looking for them to do, and what is the best way to serve that content to them. So, you know, for your main EDU website, we often look at our prospective audiences and focus on those audiences and what they need and what we need them to do there. And then for our current students and our current faculty and staff, there's information they may need from our EDU website, but we do most of our heavy lifting in the student portal and faculty portal. So it's really about looking broadly across our whole digital ecosystem and really understanding that no one property can serve everybody.
Wonderful, thank you. So Brett, I have a question here for you. What advice do you have for a college with a very small campus to make its map more engaging?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think really you just want to try and anticipate what sort of information prospective students are going to want to have access to. And some of the things we've talked about is making sure you have a platform where you can at least have data streams flowing in from your website. So they click on a building, they may want to know, well, who are the faculty that teach within the communications center, right? So tying that into or making content on your website available through that channel, right? So I think just tying it back into your website, making the information available. And then, you know, think of some creative ways to tie in social media. Again, we talked about students always being connected, and 63% of students staying updated on brands through social networks. So just making sure that we're all paying attention. We know this social media piece is important, and just tying that in.
Great, thank you. So I have one question for both of you for the remaining of the presentation. So Rebecca, in the example that you showed, the institution used the same calls to action on the same location on every page. Is this a solution you would recommend?
No, I think that was the Drew University site, and I think if you actually experience the whole website, you'd see how they move the calls to action in different places, and you can tell that they put a lot of thought and strategic sort of insight into sort of when they place those calls to action. What I would say is every time you're looking to come up with what your call to action strategy is, you really need to understand what story you're telling first. And you have to determine when is the right time to present that call to action, because you just don't want to make them so generic or so consistent and so expected that someone starts to ignore them. So it really is about thinking about the content, thinking about the story, and then really understanding where is the right place to trigger that call to action to make someone take that next step with you.
Wonderful. So Brett, I have the final question of the day for you. How can you use an interactive map as part of a guided tour so a prospective student can get as close to a real tour as possible?
It's a great question, and I like the question a lot because one of the things we've heard from our current clients and actually within how CampusBird actually builds tours is not determining and having complete control over the student's experience, actually letting them have the right tools in front of them to guide their own experience. So in terms of advice there, if you build a map the right way, and the content and the interface is easy to use, students are going to be even more engaged through navigating the various photos, clicking on a certain building as we mentioned, and being able to go inside that building and navigate 360-degree photography, for example. So I think the takeaway is if the interface is strong enough and it's a content-rich platform, the students are going to be able to create their own experience. So.
Perfect. Great answer for a great question. Wonderful. So I would like to thank today's speakers for taking their time to talk to us about engaging students on the web. For those who attended, thank you for your time as well. The slides and presentation will be available after today's webinar, and I hope you have a great Tuesday. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.